Peace, family, peace. We are now live. Let me know. For some reason on my end, I'm getting a message saying my signal is unstable. My connection is unstable. Let me know. Can y'all hear and see me all right? I just got this fancy Wi-Fi from AT&T down here, so I don't know. This is crazy. Yeah, let me know if y'all could see and hear me fine. We're gonna have a great show tonight, regardless. We're gonna figure it out. Yes, DLS. Yes, I'm assuming you mean okay. So y'all hear and see me fine? Okay. All right. So everything should be fine. All right, family. I have a great guest with me tonight. The sister was on the show before. Aminah L. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. All right. I think there might be a little latency. I'm not sure if you're hearing me. There might
You
be a
can't
little
hear me?
latency. Yeah, I hear you. I'm saying there might be a latency from when I talk and when you can hear me. I think there might be a little latency. I'm not sure. But let's keep it going, family. We're gonna let's get to a few commercials and we'll be back with a magnificent show for you tonight, family, as usual. All right. Stay tuned. Make sure you hit the like button, share the video, family, get comfortable. We'll be right back, family.
Hey there! Had a bad dream? I have dreams too. Some parts are scary and some parts are fun. Always remind yourself, it's only a dream and everything will be okay. I had a dream about being in a forest too. Check it out, my pet Petey was with me. Order your copy of Kayla Petey and the Forest on Amazon today.
Hey family, this is King Simon. Don't forget about getting your new motivation session at 347-496-1022. And don't forget about the Cosmic Alignment Workshop on May the 15th. Go to zenbar.org. That's zenbar.org.
All right, family. Shout out to King Simon. Make sure you get that book, Kayla Petey and the Magical Forest. Oh man, how many of y'all? I heard a lot of talk about the show Moon Knight, so I figured I'll get a guest on here to talk about the moon, family. A lot of questions, a lot of talk about the moon. People feel like Aminah. People feel like they get special powers depending on what phase the moon is in. So I know the ancients talked about the moon a lot. A lot of times we talk about the sun more than we talk about the moon in modern times. So. I seen you on your Instagram page, and the sister has a great Instagram page. I think it's Wise Royalty, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, tell me a little bit. What's up with? Tell me about the moon in terms of like, do we get like some powers or abilities? Because people do full moon rituals. Talk to me about the moon. What's up with the moon and our human avatar? How does it affect us?
Well, the moon affects us on the subconscious and unconscious level. Because the moon, and also the moon, it deals with the water element. So because our bodies are 70% water, it has a major effect on our emotional state. The moon is also known as the dictator of the soul. So it's a projection of the soul. So wherever your moon placement is at natally in your chart, this is where you tend to be comfortable. Like this is what makes you feel at home. This is where you feel rooted, where you feel grounded, where you feel more at ease and relaxed. So when it comes to the energy of the moon, there's a current. The energy, or the moon, I should say, it rules or has a lot to do with many ties and connections to the principle of rhythm, the Kemetic or Hermetic principle of rhythm, which states that all things rise and fall, all things have its highs and its lows, right? So when we're talking about the principle of rhythm and its connection to the moon and then our bodies, this is, the energy that's responsible for us feeling sad and down or happy and excited. When we are responding to our needs, that is the lunar energy, that pull, that magnetic current, that is encouraging us or pushing us to, get the things that whatever it is that we are in, our bodies are in demand of, our internal waters are in demand of. The moon has a lot to do with the demand. So it's really good for like when you are especially if you're like in business, because it has a lot to do with what your clients, or the people, we should say, the people, where their energy, or we could, where their energy is at. Especially in relation to the sun and the moon, because they really work together. But like you were saying, we only see the sun's energy and not really pay any type of attention to the lunar energy and how that's affecting us just as well. Because the eyes really and truly are ruled by the moon, both eyes, generally speaking. But when it comes to one or the other, when it comes to both energies, polarity, the sun and the moon, then the sun rules one eye and the moon rules the other, creating that balance. So if you are not tapped in with that lunar energy, then you are going to see things kind of one-sided, which can kind of, affect your energy in a negative sense, because it's like the sun is all about, external and expression. And it's just this, this ball of light that's just always lit and always, fired up. Whereas the moon helps to bring the balance. It helps to say, okay, we've been going and we've been working all day, but now it's time for rest. Now it's time for some rejuvenation, and really and truly, a lot of people's, their bodies, their biological clocks are set the same way. They are on go. They're not really resting. The average person, they just go to work, they go home, they wake up, and they do it again. They don't really make time for the self-care and the meditation and the actual process of going within, which is what the moon is. So, I think it connects to, just how we are affected, because it's the other half. Like, it literally is the other part. It is the other eye, but it's it's not like the sun, whereas we can see everything. It's more so dealing with what is beneath, what is going on underneath the surface. Like I said, the subconscious and the unconscious, those patterns and those cycles, those habits and things like that.
So what do you think about, there's so much talk, we live in an internet age where there's so much information. So many people now say that the moon, I know David Icke says the moon is a satellite. Some people feel as though the moon is fake. What's your thoughts on people saying the moon is either satellite or it's fake? Like, what's your thoughts on that? And did the ancients talk about that at all?
It's definitely a satellite for the earth. It communicates just like our emotions. Our emotions are the language. The emotions is the language of the body, just like words is the language of the brain. So when you are, connected to being able to understand what the body is saying, that's really all that matters. Because the moon, whether we want to say it's fake or not, like, the moon is really making changes and creating and affecting different things, just like like I said, it deals with patterns. It deals with gardening and nature and planting food and stuff like that. So and it's, it can be measured, it can be identified, it can be proven. So whether it's fake or not, honestly, all things in this, the way that I see it, in this so-called matrix, is fake, or has some sorts of artificiality or some sort of plasticity to it. So when you think about, the matrix, and how a lot of people talk about the matrix and refer to the matrix, if you ever look up the etymology of matrix, it'll tell you a pregnant animal. It'll give you some sort of, indication of a feminine energy. And they're actually talking about, what is a pregnant animal, right? They're talking about a womb. A womb is a pregnant, where a mammal can reproduce and carry the infant. So that is the matrix within itself. So we are in a matrix, but whether it's, fake or real, in the sense of, I don't even know what, because I get that question a lot in my classes too. And it's kind of like, well, where we even, what does it matter? Because at the end of the day, it's really creating cycles and change and transformation. Like that, like I was saying, that's the difference between the sun. Like, the sun is very direct and straightforward and pushing through, whereas the moon is very cyclical. It's a circle. Feminine energy is more of a circle, just like when you think about a yoni and a penis, right? One is straight and direct, and one is round, it's circular, it's cyclical, it deals with patterns, right? So if you guys can pay attention to patterns, like I do a lot of journaling, and I noticed that when I'll usually write down like the moon cycle and the date. And when I do that and I come back, let's say the moon was in Gemini, and here we are 3 years later, the moon is in Gemini again, I'll see a similar energetic pattern playing out. You get what I'm saying? Like it'll literally say it in my journal, and it'll connect to something literally that I'm going through right now. So it's like, is it fake? Is it real? I know these patterns and these cycles and these, manifestations that's occurring are very real. And I do a lot of my predictions based on the moon, new moon, and I don't really deal full moon sometimes, but really the new moon, because that is the new cycle. That is a new cycle to the new season. Or the new month rather. So yeah, I mean, the patterns are very real, and the moon has been known by the ancestors to deal with patterns and to affect unconscious and subconscious cycles and things of that nature. So
why would they name a lot of people say the word money comes from the moon, moony money? Why would they name our currency after the moon?
okay, so for one, because the moon, like I was saying, it deals with the demands, it deals with your internal needs, it deals with how you are being directed. You're right, your energy is being placed, or what motion that energy is being guided towards, right? So like I was saying with the moon, with the different cycles, right? Because it all breaks down to the cycles. We got 4 main cycles, right? We got the new moon, 2 quarters or 2 half moons. When you look at it physically, it looks like it's a half moon, right? But it's known as the quarter. So we got 2 quarter moons and then the full moon. So that's the 4 main lunar cycles, right? And this is where the 4 quarters of a dollar comes from, because there's 4 cycles to the whole, right?
Okay.
So when we have these four parts to the whole, that is the quarter. It's 1/4 of a whole is a quarter. And so money was pretty much, corresponded to match that current or match that energy. Literally, currency comes from, it's money. It means money, but it's really talking about the current of the seas. And so just like a new moon, when you're looking at a new moon and you see that little small crescent, it's very small, it's very light, but it is showing you, like, you don't even really have to know or be skilled at astrology. All you have to do is be able to look in the sky and look at the moon. When during the new moon, plant a seed, set a new intention, and as the sun, as that light begins to grow, then that energy is growing with it. That intention is growing with it. That, whatever that plan was is starting to grow with it. So by the time we get to the full moon, this is where a lot of the things that have settled down, like I said, the moon deals with our subconscious thoughts and feelings and emotions. So a lot of the things we can say that has settled down at the bottom of our subconscious, they become illuminated during the full moon. And so this was symbolic to, like certain plants. When you're growing plants, money, and the lunar cycles and agriculture, right, go hand in hand. You want to plant new seeds on a new moon, and generally you're going to see some sort of harvest or some sort of blossoming during the full moon. That's how it went. So money is ruled by Taurus, and so is plants and vegetables and fruit, and agriculture is also ruled by Taurus, right? So that's where the connection comes from. The connection comes from using the moon to track your crops, to track your produce, and then by the time they grow, you can do some trading, or you can get some sort of resource in return for you being in tune with the lunar cycles. And also understanding how the moon is connected with the the ocean during a new moon, the tides aren't as chaotic as they are during a full moon, because during this full moon the tides are higher, they're a lot more choppier. And because of this is creating a lot of things that sits at the bottom, just like the subconscious mind, to come up and out. And usually this was in the form of like pearls or, whatever was down there. And you can go and sell it and make money, or go and trade it and things like that. So resources and money and just receiving things has always been which is, or buying things, trade, has always been connected with money, always been connected with, resources and things like that. We could take it back to trading, right? Trading on boats, goods and services. You want to be in tune with the moon because that's going to affect your very life. When people were, going from Kemet or Africa or whatever and coming over here trading cocaine and herbs and diamonds and whatever else, if you're not aware, if you're settling your journey during a full moon, for example, and you're not aware of the natural cycles of the moon, it could cost you your life out there in those chaotic seas. So it was all about trading. Like that was usually how we didn't have shipping and postal services and stuff like that then. It was always imports and exports. So money, the 4 cycles of the moon connects to the 4 quarters of a dollar.
What about the moon and woman's menstrual cycle? Some people that are in the health feel as though the menstrual cycle is not even natural. The people that are in magic say the menstrual cycle is mad important. That's when a woman's most magical. So you get like different perspectives on a woman's menstrual cycle. But I hear that the moon has so much to do with it. Talk to me about the moon and the menstrual cycle.
Well, the moon and the menstrual cycle, like if a woman can really understand first and foremost the actual lunar cycle, and then correspond it, or kind of like do an overlay of what she's learned and match it with her personal menstrual cycle, then she'll begin to see the correspondences, and you'll even be able to use it as a natural form of birth control. So what do I mean? Because new moons, you're always going to have a new moon for the collective, right? Let's say the new moon that we just had was in Aries, right? But not every woman started her period or her menstrual cycle when the moon was in Aries, right? So what you do is you have this understanding of knowing that the most powerful, for me personally, just from what I've seen and just historically with our ancestors, the most powerful time for moon manifestation is the new moon, because you're setting new intentions. Your project, your plan, or whatever it is growing with the light of that new moon, right? You set the intention, or you plant the seed in a new moon, and the plant is going to begin to grow with the light as the moon's light grows, right? So that's why these new moons were very powerful, because the new moon represents a new cycle, just as a woman's menstrual cycle represents a new cycle. This is where, the egg from last month did not get fertilized. So now this is where it is, it needs to be released. It needs to be pushed out with that blood. So a new cycle, a new fertility cycle can begin. So and then by the time, the 14th day, this is usually when the woman is fertile again, right? This is when she's ovulating. This is also symbolic to the 14th day from a new moon. The 14th day from a new moon is a full moon. So you should know that the 14th day from your period, the first day of your menstrual cycle as a woman, you should know that 14 days from that day, just like the new moon, that's when you're ovulating. So 14 days from the new moon is ovulation. 14 days from the first day of your menstrual cycle or usually 14 to 16 days is, ovulation or new moon, ovulation or a full moon. So they correspond. And so the reason why it's very powerful to do new moon rituals, because the new moon for the woman represents the first day of the menstrual cycle. If you guys notice, like our ancestors, they never depicted the full moon to be a circle. You'll never really see an illustration of the moon to be a circle. It's always a crescent. You know, if you ever see any circle, it's a planet or the sun or something like that, right? But the moon has always been a crescent because that represents that, you know, that first sign of the, you know, the light being absorbed from the sun after the new moon. The day after the new moon, you begin to see a very thin crescent. So the moon in our culture and our history, our ancestors, they always depicted it as a crescent. It was never full, because full is the time where, you know, things that are happening beneath the surface are being brought up. That's when the like I said, the seas, the waters get higher, the tides get higher and choppier and crazier. And this is where things at the bottom come up, just like, you know, as they say about the lunatics, the crazy people come out around the full moon, because this is a time where, you know, these subconscious energies are really working. This is where, you know, things that were hidden are being, you know, coming to the surface and being revealed. So it's no different. You know, with full moons, this is where we are waiting for things to be revealed. And just like the woman's body, this is when the body is waiting for the egg to come out to be fertilized. So it's really about understanding the cycle of the moon and, you know, what is occurring, because our bodies are in tune with it. Just every single month we have a menstrual cycle. Well, there's something going on in between the days, right? Just like there's lunar cycles that are occurring in between new moon to new moon, or period to period, menstrual cycle to menstrual cycle. There's some ovulation or full mooning going on in between. So, but the new moons are the most powerful because that's the crescent.
So I notice a lot of people do rituals on a full moon. So do you think that's the wrong way to go about it? We should do our manifestation rituals on the new moon and not the full moon? Because when the full moon come on, everybody's hyped. We all think it's beautiful, and we start doing our rituals and we start trying to manifest things. So are we approaching it from the wrong perspective?
I won't say necessarily the wrong perspective, but you are kind of going against the tide, because the full moon is like full moon, just like the new moon. It lasts for one day, right? So after that, after the full moon, the light of that moon is, you know, it's shortening, it's becoming less, because why? The cycle is starting to feed or go back into a new moon, so the light is less. So I feel like it's kind of like you're swimming against the current, you're swimming against the tide, and there could cause some resistance, not all the time, but there usually is a lot more issues, a lot more problems when you're trying to manifest on a full moon. You know, this is a time where you want to relax and pay attention and observe, because the luminary of the night sky is wanting you to see something, not necessarily. And of course, too, this is a time where you receive, too. This is a time where you celebrate. This is a time where you are supposed to be reaping the benefits of whatever seed you planted during a new moon, because that's what it's for. It's for new cycles, for new things, new plants. You plant a seed symbolically on a new moon, you're supposed to start seeing a flower or a sprout or something by the full moon, you know, and then that's how it keeps going. You don't want to really plant a seed on the full moon. It's the light is getting less, if that makes sense. So
no, definitely. You know, another thing I hear often now with this new the information age that we're in, I always was told that the moon, the light from the moon is a reflection of the sunlight. Now I'm hearing that the moonlight is completely different from sunlight. It's a different light from within itself. So is the light within the moon, is it a reflection of the sun, or is it a totally different light that the moon contains than the light from the sun?
it's definitely a reflection, because if that was the case, you know, like for example, the sun is in Libra. The sun is in Aries right now, right? Our next full moon is going to be in Libra. Why? Because Libra is exactly opposite from Aries. So if the moon is over here, it's like you're sitting at a table. If the moon is over here on this side and the sun is exactly across, that light is all coming to the moon in its fullest, you know, so it's going to illuminate. So it's kind of like after a new moon, we don't see any light. why is that? Why after a new moon we don't see any light? Because the sun and the moon are in the same sign. They're not opposite from each other. The moon isn't absorbing all that light from sitting directly 180 degrees across from the sun, if that makes sense. So I know that the moon does kind of like has its own faster motion and speed, but it's absorbing the light from the sun. Definitely, they work together to create cycles. They represent like the mother and the son, or the father and the father and the mother too in some cases, but for the most part it's just the luminaries, like the parents of this realm. It's what helps everything grow. We have to have both.
Do you think that when they say the ancients lived in a matriarchal society, and do you think at certain times we worship the moon more than we did the sun? Because now it's all about the sun, children of the sun worship. Everything is Ra this, Ra that, the sun. At certain times when I guess when the women on the planet weren't being disrespected, or it was matriarchal, do you think the moon was more important than the sun, if that makes sense? Was there ever time the moon was considered more important than the sun? If it represents the woman and the sun represents the man,
I don't buy into that. I really don't. Like, I feel like it was always some balance. Like, I don't see it as, oh, one was more important than the other. I feel like that came with some sort of colonist mindset, because if our ancestors were really observing nature and working with nature and working with astronomy, they would you have to honor both, because both are very, very necessary. Like, it's like saying, like I said, it's your emotions is the language of your body, just like the sun is the heart. You need both to navigate through. You need to be able to be sensitive to danger, or be sensitive. The sun might not always see that. The sun is always happy. That energy that's within us is the happy part of us, the part of us that just want to have fun, see the bright side of everything. And the moon is like, I don't know, like something ain't right. Like, if something smells weird around it, something feels weird, something feels off. And so I don't really see that there was an importance, a difference, or one being more important than the other. That's kind of like how it is now, with just the way that we see with our consciousness. It's really about being balanced, because when you don't have the balance, that's what causes that so-called toxicity, toxic feminine, as they call it, or toxic masculinity. What I've come to realize, toxic masculinity is really just, the emotion, something with the emotion, the internal lunar energy being imbalanced. So, I hope I answered that, but yeah.
We always talk about the moon and the woman and the effect on the woman. In terms of men, does it have a unique effect on men? Like, you see how the moon affects the woman's menstrual cycle. Is there anything unique that the moon does to men that we may not be aware of because of our programming?
Yes, you guys have periods too. Energetically.
What you talking about? Come on. What you talking about?
So, like I was saying, going back to understanding the lunar cycles, right? A new moon is when the sun and the moon are in the same sign. Okay? Because you really got to look at the sun and the moon as like hands on a clock. Like, when the sun is here and the moon is over here doing this and that, it's each time she moves, it's a different angle of light is being, is hitting the moon. So energy speaks and communicates through angles.
Yeah.
Right? So if the sun is here and the moon is here, and then here, and then here, and then back here to where the sun is, that's a full cycle, or a completion, or a new cycle rather, a new moon. So you got the sun and the moon in the same sign, right? Creating a new moon. Or for a woman's body, it's a menstrual cycle, a new month, right? So with men, with you guys, it's all about understanding, tracking the cycles of the moon and knowing where your sun sign is, which I think you said you were a Virgo last time.
Virgo,
Oh,
yeah.
Virgo, right? So when the sun, the sun is never going to move in your chart as a Virgo. That is fixed. The sun will forever be there in the natal chart when you were born. But when you're tracking the moon and you see that the moon is in Virgo, or let's just say it's in Leo, like it is right now, soon it's going to be in Virgo next because it's in Leo right now. So it's going to be in Virgo next. So that for you energetically is going to be like a new month, a new menstrual cycle. It's a new moon for you, natally for you, not for, the collective.
Yeah.
It's not a new moon in Virgo, clearly, right? We're in Aries season. But for you, it is a new month. It's a menstrual cycle. So this is the time when the moon is in a man's sun sign. This is a time where he want to, be making sure he's on top of his self-care. This might be a time where he want to get a little more rest or get in tune with his emotions or start setting some new, cycles, releasing something. Or right now you could be preparing to release something because it's in Leo. You're preparing for that new cycle when the moon enters Virgo. So because it's in Leo right now, this is the shedding. This is the releasing. This is the letting go of something. Or, maybe you're starting to wind down. Maybe you're going to be doing less hours of work or something so that this new moon or this new cycle for you personally, you can really begin afresh, begin anew. If that makes sense. So when the men, this is a time where you guys should be meditating, where you should, do something new. Start, renew your energy, renew the cycle, set some new intentions, plant some new seeds in some way. Because yes, it really is, like for women, what our ancient tribes used to do was during our cycles. This is why it's so important for women to be in community too, because and not separated the way that we can be, because when women are together, their menstrual cycles link up.
Yeah,
and
I heard
comes on
about
the same day. Right. And the reason for this is because for community, for connection, right, for communion. So during the tribes, when these women, all of them having their cycles synced up at the same time, they would go off into the wilderness or into the woods with what a lot of Aboriginal tribes knew as moon lodges. They would call them literally moon lodges.
See, I've been moon lodges.
They would call them moon lodges, and all the women who were on their cycle during these times, they would go and connect to the other realms, connect to the spirit realm, do plant medicine, meditate, sing, dance, naked, around the fire, whatever they were doing during this time. And they would leave the children behind, and the children would stay with the men, the men and the elders and stuff, and they would go and receive these messages and all these downloads. And then once their periods were, was done, the menstrual cycle was over, they would go and return and share all the information and the value and the insight that all of them received while they were there. So just imagine, a large group of women doing this versus you got these few, the few gifted ones or the few random dispersed ones, when really it's because we're really stronger together. And when your cycles are linked up like that, it's a huge port, especially when those energies are all together like that. It's a huge port. So I know that it's something similar. I say all that to say it's something similar for the men, that they really should, take some time out to give back to themselves during the time where the moon is in the same sign as their sun sign, because it's the equivalent to a menstrual cycle or a new moon.
Interesting. I'm definitely going to keep that in mind next time when my moon is in Virgo. Definitely. I'm glad you told me that. One more question in terms of one more question in terms of the whole menstrual and moon thing. I've listened to a lot of occultists before, and some of them say that the menstrual blood should be drinking. A person could drink it, and it's like the elixir of life. Now that sounds real grotesque and nasty to a lot of people. Like, I mean, that stuff smell like woo. What is there any bit of truth to that? Do people do rituals with it? What was it? Was it, did it have purpose in the past for rituals or drinking or whatever? Like something that we may totally not be aware of.
Yeah, I mean, it's really no good or bad, really, when it comes. I mean, it is. Everything is everything when it comes to spirituality. Spirit is, the breath, which is, consists of our inhales and our exhales. So our inhales and our exhales represents a polarity, right? This is two energies, two currents that kind of like feed off of one another back and forth. So, yeah, like everything, I don't see it as good or bad. It just is what it is. Like if that's what the energy calls for, then that's just what the energy calls for. I think it just goes to show, how far we are from understanding the self and the body. Like there's some people who, they're drinking their urine and doing urine therapy and stuff like that. But of course, that's because the frequency, the vibration that they're at, and their health, their diet, and things like that. So if you're not, eating healthy, or you're doing, you're not really taking care of yourself energetically the way you should be, then of course it will seem nasty or gross. I've never done it personally. I've never drank my menstrual blood, but I'm not saying that I won't, because if I'm led to do that, if the energy calls for me to do that, then that's what I'll do, because I know the power of me, and so if I'm using that regenerative fluid, that magnetic fluid, or if I'm being called to use that magnetic fluid, I know it's going to be for a powerful reason, because it's coming from me. So yeah, people use it. People definitely drink it, make face masks and put it in their plants and food for some people, and all that, makeup, everything, lipstick, red lipstick. So
Well, somebody asked a good question in the chat earlier. You talked about balance. I don't want to forget it, so I just want to ask it now before I get to Q&A. Just speaking of balance, do you believe that the moon is feminine and the sun is masculine? Like we assign certain energies, masculine and feminine, to a lot of things. Should the moon? Because I heard some people say before that the moon is really masculine and the sun is feminine. Like I've heard so much. So is the moon feminine and the sun masculine? How would you describe these energies?
Okay, look at it like this. The moon is always changing, right? 1 minute it's a crescent, 1 minute it's half, 1 minute it's full, 1 minute is this, 1 minute is that, right? The sun is always shining, even if we think it went down, right? Somewhere else in the world, it's still going. It's still, doing its thing. It's still just giving its light and stunting on everybody, we can say. So it's always expressing outwardly. It wants to shine. It's self-centered. It wants to be the center of attention, just like somebody on the stage is shining their gifts and performing, right? So when you think about that energy, it's very direct, it's constant, it's always going, it's forever and ever consistently just what it is. Whereas the moon, it has these cycles, right? These phases, these different faces. And so, which represents to me the woman, the feminine energy, like where we are needing to rest, we need to relax. Women can't work 20 hours straight. I mean, men probably can't either. Nope, that's a lot, but I'm sure a man can, before more than a woman can. 20 hours of work straight. And because his energy, his strength, he has more solar energy within him. He has more of that fire element within him. Whereas we need the rest, we need the rejuvenation, we need the relaxation and the self-care a lot more. We are more moody. We are, sometimes we might feel like this. One minute we might feel like that. One minute we might want to do our hair like this. The next day we might want to have our hair like that. It's changing. It's always about change. It's always about transformation, right? Think of the cycles. Look at the phases. Look in the sky yourself, right? And it's no different from our cycles, our menstrual cycle, and the things that we're going through, and how we have certain emotions that may chaotically come up out of nowhere, and you'd be like, damn, what's wrong with her? Like, we was just laughing. It was just all good, because it's like the phases and the cycles of the moon. So I mean, the way that I see it, yeah, the moon is feminine. Like, our lunar cycle is aligned with it. When you look at the full moon in the sky, that is like the ovum. It's like an ovum, it's that's getting ready to be released, in a sense, so it's kind of like really corresponding to us. If you really are paying attention, think of the different energies. Look at the differences. The fire element is masculine. The water element, which the moon deals with, right? The ocean, it affects the tides and all that, is connected with the ocean. The water element is feminine. So that's where I stand with that one.
You have a moon gaze. You have a moon gaze. We hear everybody talk about sun gaze. You have a moon gaze?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think too much of it will make you crazy? Too much moon gazing to make you crazy? Do you think?
No? I mean, I don't necessarily moon gaze all the time, in the sense where I'm out there looking at it, but every single day I could say I'm moon gazing. I'm looking at, where's the moon at in relation to the sun? Because if the sun represents one hand on the clock and the moon represents another hand on the clock, you don't just look at one hand every time. If the sun represents the hour hand, which it does. The sun represents the hour hand. The hour hand is slower, right? The moon represents the minute hand. The minute hand moves faster. Just like the moon, it moves faster than the sun. So when we're telling time, we're not just looking at the hour hand. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. Oh, now it's 11 o'clock. It's something in between going on. Oh, it's 10:15. Oh, it's 10:19. Oh, it's 10:55. That 55, that minute, is the moon. Now you have something to correspond to. It's not just 11 o'clock and that's just it. You're looking at both of them. You're looking at and being mindful of both of them to help you read the energy. So when I'm moon gazing, I'm looking at, okay, like for example, today, the sun is in Aries, the moon is in Leo. That is the fifth. The moon is 5 houses away from the sun. If you know anything about the 5th house, then you'll know it makes sense. Kind of like why I'm here right now.
So that's like
about the sun and the moon.
Is that like 5? Is that like 5 o'clock cosmically? If Aries is in the 5th house, is that like on the cosmic clock? Is that like 5 o'clock on the cosmic clock, and then it goes back to the 12, and then you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can look at it like that. You can, once you understand all the things, I don't want to say all, but if you have just a basic level understanding, at least, of what the 5th house rules. What is the 5th house? 5th house is children. 5th house is creativity. 5th house is, love and hobbies and dating, and just in general, your performance, your ability to act, your willpower, your drive is connected. Mars can be your drive too, but it's your vitality. Leo is your vitality. So you got the sun in Aries and the moon in Leo. Leo is 5 houses away from Aries. So those themes are going to show up just like tomorrow, or when the moon moves into Virgo. The sun will be in Aries. The moon will be in Virgo. That's 6 houses away from the perspective of the sun. That's 6 houses away. So when you're seeing it that way, the energy is going to play out in a 6th house manner. You might hear some things about health coming up. You might hear some things about work, or just over analyzing, paying attention to details, having this urge or necessity to want to clean up, clean your health, literally clean your diet, because Aries is the self and the body. Virgo is the health and, you know, the internal processes and patterns and things like that within the body. So, you know, things like that will come up because why? You understand cosmic time. You know what time it is, as they say. So just being able to really monitor and track them, yeah, it really helps.
Family, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We got about a thousand viewers in the room. Make sure you hit the like button, family. Somebody in the chat said there's only like 181 likes. Yo, some of y'all always forget to hit the like button. Some of y'all just too cheap to hit the like button. I don't know what it is. But make sure you hit the like button. It's very important to like the videos. It helps the algorithm. We're going to get to some Q&A real soon, family. So get your questions ready. I know you enjoying today's show. I definitely learned some things. You know, I got to prepare for Virgo. What do you say? Virgo's going, my moon in Virgo. I got to prepare for that. So if this sister didn't tell me about that, you know, so I learned something important tonight. So thank you, Aminah, for letting me know about that. Definitely going to look into that. In terms of the moon, damn, I forgot what I was just about to ask you. I've heard that the Earth's gravity is so strong that we can only see one side of the moon, and that there's a dark side of the moon. Have you ever heard anything about this dark side of the moon? Have our ancients ever talked about the dark side of the moon? What is this dark side of the moon about?
Yes, it's really just the dark side of our emotions. Like again, going back to, you know, the parts that we may, like they say, shadow work. Or things that has occurred that maybe we didn't fully get to process. You know, we didn't get to fully emotionally process it. We didn't really get to deal with it. We didn't get to self-regulate. We didn't get to self-soothe, or we didn't learn how to self-soothe. We didn't have somebody who came to our aid to kind of like be there for us when we were going through certain things. So because of that, it doesn't get transmuted. It doesn't get, you know, transmuted into something else, or to grow into, you know, so you can learn from the lesson in some way. It didn't get integrated. And so because of that, and it's usually something from the past, the childhood, because that's what the moon rules. It rules our past. It rules our childhood. It could even be something that your mother did to you or didn't do to you, and it affected you. Because the moon is the mother. So whatever this occurrence is that happened, it, you know, sometimes when, you know, certain things come out, particularly like a full moon, that other side can show itself too. You know, like I was saying with the lunatic aspect, that piece, you know, where people, they're not understanding this energy and how it's all coming to the light, is being brought to the forefront of the conscious mind now. You know, it's just like a dirty pond. If you got a dirty pond and there's some stuff at the bottom and you like shake it up or move some stuff around, you know, if you're looking down, you might not be able to see. But once you start shaking it up, now you can see all this stuff that was just sitting at the bottom, and it's cloudy, it's dirty, it looks nasty. Now you can look and see in that water now, right? And so it's kind of similar, you know, with the dark side of the moon. These are like our deepest hidden emotions. And actually, I like to connect that energy with the Lilith energy. You know, it's the dark side of the feminine that doesn't get talked about or doesn't get dealt with, or it kind of gets like thrown like, oh, she, you know.
Who's Lilith now? Who's Lilith now?
Lilith is, you know, it's an archetype, really, a mythological archetype that represents that aspect of the feminine energy that, you know, kind of gets suppressed. She doesn't really get heard. So she may, and because of that, she may want to rebel in certain ways. And that could show up in a form of promiscuity, or, you know, just an evil, dark, just want to kill everybody, and, you know, mean, however that may manifest. But Lilith represents, you know, the energy within the feminine that, you know, was not she wasn't, she didn't want to go like follow the rules of the, I guess we could say, the patriarchy according to the mythology. Adam represented, because Lilith was Adam's first wife according to the mythology. So Adam really represented, you know, the structure, we could say the governmental structure or the societal structure that tells women they can't do this or they can't do that or they can't be like this or they, you know, can't behave in that way or you can't talk like that or dress like that. And Lilith was like, what? I'm out of here then, you know, and she left the so-called Garden of Eden and went into the wilderness. And when she went into the wilderness, this was actually when she was able to discover and learn about her power. So it's just the same as a woman stepping out of, you know, the societal structure of, you know, whatever the mainstream thing may be. And so that you can really learn about your power, the hidden power. But as long as she stayed, you know, in within the garden and within, you know, following the rules and the status quo, she would have never got there. So the dark side of the moon also represents how there is, you know, these might be parts of ourselves that we might be ashamed of. We might be ashamed to dress in, you know, something more revealing or whatever, because of it's not the status, or my culture doesn't really approve of that, or I can't do that. But sometimes it might be the very thing that you need to step outside of the societal structure to discover a part of your unconscious mind, which is the moon, or the subconscious mind, so that, you know, because it's uncharted territory. It might be weeds growing in there in that part of that of your mind that might need to be tended to. You know, it might be some actual fertile land that just needs to have some seeds planted there as well. But because you're staying away from it, because it's the dark side of the moon, it's the dark side of your emotions, it's the dark side of the way that you want to really direct your energy. You want to direct your emotion. You're like, no, let me stay away from that. And so because a lot of women reject it, it is rejected because we're rejecting it ourselves. And so yeah, I think it is goes and speaks to the dual nature of the feminine energy too.
Indeed. All right, family, about to get to some Q&A. Before I do, family, make sure you show support to the channel. Make sure you hit that donate button, or you can hit the Cash App $ Black Magic 363. As I always say, it's important to support the platforms that support you with the necessary information to grow your spirit, family. All right. Aminah, do you have a Cash App you want to share with the family?
Yeah, it's YXCHEL Bay, BEY, Eshel Bay.
So Y as in the letter Y, X as in X-ray, CHEL Bay. Okay.
Money score in the front.
Yeah. You go by Amin, or you go by Wise Royalty? What do you go by usually? Like what's
Aminah.
Aminah?
Aminah for the most part. People who
Aminah.
don't know my name, they call me Wise Royalty, but yeah, Aminah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get to some Q&A, family. All right, let's get to some Q&A. It's been a great show. I see y'all in the chat. The chat's booming. I see y'all enjoying yourselves.
Why I can't see the chat? Or is it
I
set
don't
that
know.
way?
You should know. No, you should be able to see the chat. I don't know why you
Let's
can't.
see. Oh, there it go.
You got it. Okay. Yeah. You say I never answer your cash apps. Well, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pay close attention now. Yeah. But shout out to that sister. Yeah. She's a regular viewer on the channel. Very supportive. Shout out to the sister. Yeah. Selassie. Yaya wants to know: did the Archons put the satellite up to keep souls trapped on Earth?
What was the question?
Did the Archons put the satellite up to keep the souls trapped on Earth? That's the question she wrote.
What? Expound. What does she mean?
The Archons, like these, they could, like these evil entities that they say they rule over the government. The Archon, I believe that's who the Archons are. And
The
I believe.
Archons are the zodiac.
Well, elaborate on your perspective here. Let me hear what do you have to
Okay,
say about the
well,
Archons? I might be wrong, but I think that's what she was referring to. But go ahead, elaborate on that.
I've always just saw the Archons as the 12 some people refer to them as the 12 prison guards that keep you, trapped here, trapped in so-called time, which is, this dimension, the matrix, the pregnant animal, which is Cancer, right? The womb is Cancer, or the moon is ruled by Cancer, and the opposite of Cancer is Capricorn, which rules time. So it's kind of like, when I see, or when I think of the Archon energy, it is an energy that can trap you. It is something that you need to understand, to learn, so that you can elevate above and beyond it. Like we can bypass our cosmic energy just by understanding them, though. First, you got to understand them. You can't, get past them. It's just like when you are literally in prison. If you want to get, I don't know, like, snacks, or you want to get the, the latest, you want to get certain privileges and things like that. You do kind of want to become cool with the COs in there, right? And I've never been to prison, but I'm just saying this from people that I know who've been to prison. You do kind of want to be cool with the CO, so you can have certain privileges, certain benefits that you can have access to. And it's no different when I think of the archons. The archons are the zodiac signs. These are the energies. We remove the shell on the crab of Cancer. If we remove, Virgo being this version, if we remove the lion, Leo, and the mane and the fur and all that, and really just see them as energies that are feeding into the planet and that are causing different shifts and different things to occur. They're interacting with one another and merging with one another, which is creating a formula, creating an outcome. So we can understand that these energetic currents are coming through, and they are kind of like, they work for this place. That's what they do. Like, they keep everything in a particular order. But once you understand them and understand that your consciousness is beyond the astral plane is the zodiac, the cosmos. But your consciousness can go beyond the astrals. So, but you got to learn the astrals first, like, So, yeah, like as far as the satellite, I don't really understand what she's asking. Like, the souls are here. This is Saturn's realm. Like, this is the realm of time. And when it comes to time, it comes with karma. And when you're dealing with karma, it comes with lessons and things you have to learn. And if you don't learn them, yeah, you're trapped. You got to stay here and do it again. So as far as a satellite, though, I really don't understand. So that's why I was asking if she can expound on that.
Okay, let's get to the next question, and I'll see if the sister wants to expound on that. The next question is, what is the significance of 2 new moons this month, April 1st and April 30th?
What is the significance?
Yes.
2 new moons in a month. It's actually a black moon. The second one is going to be known as a black moon.
Black moon, whoa.
Yeah.
That's rare, right? That's rare.
Or actually, no, April 30th is the that's the lunar, the solar eclipse. Yeah, April 30th is a solar eclipse. So that's the difference. One is going to be an eclipse and one is going to be a regular new moon. So the one April 1st, that new moon was in Aries, making it a regular new moon. And then because the North Node is a point of destiny, the North Node is in Taurus right now. So because the North Node is in Taurus, our next new moon, because every month we got a new moon in a new sign, our next new moon is going to be in Taurus. So that one is going to be an eclipse. Okay. So one is an eclipse, one is a regular full moon, new moon.
Brother Rich, does she have an opinion on toxic femininity? Was a topic I've come across.
Yes, toxic femininity. Okay. Toxic femininity is actually in all of us. And what I've come to realize is what we thought, like I was saying earlier, what we've been thinking is toxic masculinity is really just his inner feminine that's toxic, or haven't transmuted something, because The lunar energy within is the energy that transforms. Water element, period, is all about transformation. It transmutes things. You know, this is why a dead body can be in the ocean for however long. Eventually, it's going to disintegrate and it's going to evaporate back into, you know, the cosmic sea, or, you know, the ocean, and then eventually into the cosmic sea, right? So when it comes to toxic femininity, I think is really about, it really comes to us not understanding feminine energy in its fullest sense. You know, we are going off of all these false, you know, interpretations of what feminine energy really is. And I think toxic femininity can be broken down into two categories: the neglect of the emotion and the over pacification of the emotion, because the moon is the emotion, feminine energy is emotional energy, right? And so the neglect aspect of toxic femininity really just comes from being disconnected from our feelings, so much so to the point where we can't hear our own body's needs. You know, we can't hear the language of what the body is trying to communicate, you know, and that can manifest in men or women, where you know, it can show up as being emotionally avoidant. So just as the moon communicates, you know, to the earth, the tone of the cycle that we're in, or the season that we're in, you know, the moon is letting the earth know, hey, we're approaching fall. It's time to start, you know, letting some of the leaves die, or it's time to start, you know, growing the plants again. Here we are in spring. It's communicating. The moon is communicating this. There's a connection between the moon and the earth where they're communicating back and forth, actually. And so I look at that as, you know, the emotions are the language that is really communicating what's unconscious, those unconscious patterns. And when you're not in tune with the unconscious habits or patterns that you are involved in, yes, it can seem toxic. It can appear to be toxic femininity. And just as the overly pacification of the of toxic feminine energy is when the emotion is held, or it's kind of like when you're emotional, or this over irrational behavior is held in high regard over logic, over merit, over wisdom. You know, that's a problem too, because yes, our emotions, is good to, you know, be in tune with our emotions and to be in tune with how we feel, but it's never okay to put our emotions over what makes sense. It's never okay to put our emotions over what's logical. You know, logic dealing with the air element, intelligence dealing with the air element. We can't breathe underwater, right? So that air element is still necessary when we're talking about our emotions, because just as you can't breathe underwater, that also says that you don't really have full clarity when you're in your emotions, when you're in your feelings. You're not always thinking your clearest, right? So it's kind of like a child, speaking of Moon and Leo, it's kind of like a child who's just kicking and screaming and crying for something or for something to go their way just because they said so. Like, you know, or I want this because I want it. It's kind of like that. And that's where the toxic femininity comes in both man and woman. You know, feeling like things should go your way just because you say so. Feeling like, you know, things should be this particular way because that's how you feel, with no type of logic, no type of meritocracy, no type of, you know, ranking system. It's just, oh, I want it. Can I have it? It's toxic feminine, or toxic, toxic feminine. And this manifests in the sense of women, you know, and men too, but particularly the women. Toxic femininity manifests really and truly just like toxic masculinity. Toxic femininity manifests when a woman is, you know, either overly pacifying her emotions, feeling like everything should evolve around how she feels, or when she is totally neglecting emotion, all the way around, and that energy can come off kind of masculine now at this point, you know. So now she's kind of toxic because she's more using her feminine energy with masculine characteristics. It's just not, it doesn't, and it's no different from the man where he's using his masculine energy. I mean, his feminine energy is a little imbalanced. It's a little, you know, neglectful, and maybe he feel like things have to go his way because I'm the man, I'm the leader of the household, you should submit to me, and you know, this and that and the other, when in reality it's something deeper going on. There's something deeper that he need, and he may not understand it, he might not realize it, he might not, you know, because it's lunar energy. So a lot of the things that we're calling toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, really and truly is dysregulated lunar energy, something from your past, something that your mom did to you, mommy issues that a lot of these men be having, right? It's all connected to toxic femininity. So it could be in a man. We keep calling these men toxic. Oh, he's toxic masculine. No, it's really toxic femininity within him, and that's why it's coming out the way it's coming out. Just like you got some of these men, you know, I appreciate that they are trying to uplift the men, uplift the brothers, and empower them, but they're doing it from a space where they're attacking the feminine. You know, I ain't gonna say no names, but they're attacking the feminine. And in reality, is because their inner feminine is toxic or jealous or, you know, something, you know, and it could be too that his inner feminine is a little wounded, and he's just trying to bring correction to the situation, but it's coming off in a bashful or degrading manner, and not necessarily in a divine masculine, which is leading, guiding, giving that, you know, that teaching or whatever the lesson is that the women need to know. Is more so about just toxic and degrading. So yeah, toxic femininity is really just dysregulated emotion, and the energy is being the motion of the being or the vessel is being directed or misguided in some sort of strange or off rhythm, offbeat way, according to the nature of that person, whether man or woman.
Indeed. All right, let's get to the next question. What exercises do you recommend to tap into the energy of the moon, especially for men?
To tap into the energy of the moon?
Yes, especially for men. What exercises do you recommend?
Well,
Brothers is paying attention.
what I was saying earlier, first you have to track the moon. You have to be tracking the moon, and you want to know your natal chart. Because you want to make, if you want to make it custom, like, is this for like a customized question, or is this for you just want to see, you know, what's going on with the environment around you and the world around you? Then that's different. If you want to see what's going on with the world around you and the environment around you, then track the moon, you know, like right now it's in Leo. Look up what is Leo rule. See how that's manifesting around you, right? Or if you know your natal chart, you might have Leo in the ninth house. Understand what the ninth house rules, because that's where the moon is shining at, in Leo, in your ninth house. And then you can start talking about practices, because we got to understand that the zodiac wheel is, these are portals, right? These are currents of energy that's coming through. So if the moon is in Leo right now and that's your ninth house, that's customized for you. You know, it's going to be different from what it is for the collective, where it's just more so, generally speaking, moon is in Leo, and that's that. Sun is in Aries. But when you're looking at the personal chart, it takes it deeper, and it gives you more customized practices and exercises that you can do. But for starters, if I were you, I would get a moon app, see when is the moon in your sun sign, and take a break for the whole duration that the moon is in your sun sign. Take a break, relax if you can. Like, I know we can't always call off of work, which is very unfortunate, because that's the society that we live in. We live in a solar, you know, type of society or world that we're in, where it's predominantly I guess in a sense, in that regard, it's a lot of solar or sun consciousness thinking where it's always just be on go, go, go. You can't call your job and be like, hey, you know, it's my masculine period. The moon is in my sun sign right now. I need 2 days off. Or as a woman, you can say, hey, call your job and be like, hey, I'm on my period. I need 5 days off. They're going to look at you like you're crazy and probably fire you because they want you to be on the sun's program. They want you to be on that particular energy system where you're just always shining, no rest, no break, no rejuvenation, no type of transformation of the cycles and the periods and the, you know, the routines and things of it all. It's just always be on go, go, go like a robot. And so, yeah, if I were you, I would just suggest you use that energy, see when the moon is in your sign for the 2.5 days that it's going to be there, and really dedicate that time to catering to yourself, to loving yourself, to starting some new cycle, setting some sort of new routine, some new pattern. I don't know, working out or whatever it is that you know you need. You know you're lacking in something. You know that you're missing something. You know you haven't read something or haven't been eating the right something. Whatever it is, you need to get on it during the times when the moon is in your sun sign. And that's how you can start tracking it. And then see when the moon is in your opposite sign. When the moon is in the opposite sign of your sun sign. So let's just say you're a Taurus. The opposite sign of Taurus is Scorpio. So when the moon is in Scorpio and your sun is in Taurus, the moon transiting moon is creating a full moon effect. Even though it might not be a full moon for everybody in the collective, but for you personally, it's a full moon for you. So this is the time when you can start doing things that correspond to the full moon energy. You know, of course, you look these things up, maybe even buy a lunar cycle or a lunar calendar, or a lunar phase book, I mean, so that you really can understand the cycles and integrate them into your life. Or you can sign up for my class. But yeah, I really suggest you really do want to have an understanding of the clock in general, like especially the sun and the moon working together. And if not, then just look at where the moon is at in your natal chart, what house that is, and just give your energy to whatever that house, whatever the energy calls for that house.
Indeed. Let's get to the next question. I'm gonna take a few more questions, family, before we get out of here. Rashad wants to know, what is the significance of the Neptune Jupiter conjunction with the moon in Virgo tomorrow?
Oh, man, I can go on and on about that, but I mean, the moon in Virgo, I really don't get what they're asking, but I know the significance of those two happening. It is going to affect something with the legal system. It's going to affect relationships in many ways because, of course, Venus is there too. And the moon is opposite of this conjunction. So I know it's going to have a great effect on relationships, divine purpose, a lot of spiritually destined relationships are being, you know, brought together during this time. And I know too, you know, Virgo and Pisces, they have this connection where it deals with the regulating of the sea. Virgo deals with regulation, Pisces is the seas. So I know it's going to have a lot to do with the waters, you know, the water element and how those elements are being worked, whether, you know, just the natural regulations of nature, cycles of nature, or, you know, through mankind, you know, messing with something or manipulating something or doing something. But yeah, like that energy is very, very extensive. Like for me to really go into the depths of what I see with that energy, we'll be here all night. But I've talked about it. If you guys look on my Instagram, I went live about it and I pretty much talked about that energy only for like 2 hours. So you guys, you should definitely check that out. Rashad, definitely check that out on my Instagram. I have it labeled as the Jupiter conjunct Neptune. And I'm sure you might get a message from that. But yeah.
Indeed. What's your Instagram again? It's Wise Royalty, right?
Wise.royalty.
Wise.royalty. And last question. I also want to, before we get to this question, somebody asked how would they sign up for your classes? How would somebody sign up for that if they were interested?
Well, my classes are based on the quarter, right? So I do 4 classes per year, and they're each 3 months or 12 weeks long. So you would have to wait. It's too late to join now, but you would have to wait till the next cycle, which will be in June, to join. So if you follow my Instagram, then, and keep up with me, you'll eventually see when I'm starting to promote for my next cycle of classes, which will be the beginning of June. I'm actually about to put together some other specialty classes too, because I've been doing the beginners for a while now, and I kind of want to upgrade it. So June, if anybody want to take it, definitely June is the one, because June just might be the last live class for the beginners astrology. So yeah, June.
Okay, let's get to this last question. What's the difference between women who bleed on I don't know, on the moon versus the sun? Do you understand? Can you see that question? Do you understand it?
What's the difference between women who bleed on the new moon versus the full moon?
Is that
Just different cycles. You're on a different pattern. You're on what I feel like, if your menstrual cycle is starting with the full moon, you're being led or asked to pay attention to something. I don't know if you've been on this, intention setting mission or whatever, but you are being asked to pay attention and release. You're being asked to release, for those of you who are starting your cycles on the full moon. And for those who are starting your cycles on the new moon, you're actually in alignment with how how nature, how your body is supposed to be in tune. Like, we really are supposed to be in tune with the new moon. Like, our cycles are supposed to start with the new moon, but not all the time. It shifts. Eventually, it kind of shifts, but when it sets to be with the full moon, because sometimes it'll go back and forth. Sometimes it'll start with the new moon, and then you'll notice 6 months later, it's starting on the full moon. Right? So these are cycles within cycles, wheels that's overlapping wheels that you have to be mindful of. And so, yeah, I feel like if your period is coming during a full moon, this is definitely a time where you need to be using that blood for that woman. She should be really using that blood to deal with any type of banishing or, cleansing or releasing during those times. So, yeah, that's the difference. I feel like the new moon, you're kind of on time. It's kind of like the energy. It's kind of like you're going with the current. Whereas the full moon, there's some resistance there, and you got to be very mindful of what's being communicated to you during those times.
I'm gonna ask one more question. Do you mind? One more?
Go ahead.
All right. What is a good moon ritual for manifestation?
What is a good what?
Moon ritual for manifestation. Like what?
See, these kind of questions, you got to know your chart. Like, anybody in my class, they know. I always say, okay, y'all, the next full moon or new moon is going to be at 26 degrees or whatever degree. Where is that in your chart?
How would they find that out?
So go on any, astrological or natal chart generating site, put your birth information in, put it on equal house, not Placidus. Make sure it's on equal house. And then, based on equal house, because the houses are equal, you'll know exactly which house this new moon or full moon is occurring. And that's why, when doing rituals and working with rituals and magic and stuff like that, astrology is the prerequisite. Like you don't want to just be, placing yourself out there doing stuff, and you want it to be custom for you. You get what I'm saying? So when you understand a little bit about just a little bit is all you really need. If you and I promise you, things will start coming to you because your eyes are open now. But let's just say the full moon or whatever lunar cycle it is happening in your fourth house. Fourth house is rules family, the emotions, the moon, the mother, your roots, settling down with something, getting grounded or rooted with something, finding or setting or establishing a foundation of some kind, right? Maybe you're going to be moving into a new house, or maybe let's just say this full moon is taking place in 2 weeks, and you know that it's going to be in your fourth house, and you are trying to move because the fourth house rules our living situation, and you are trying to move. So there's about to be a new moon in your fourth house. You want to start, setting rituals, writing things down, because magic really involves a lot of writing. Your words, your spelling is your spells, right? Understanding etymology too really helps. But you want to write certain things down. So say you want to manifest this new place, write it down. Set a candle on top of it until that new moon. Some people burn them. Some people spit on them. Some people do all kind of different things with their sigils or their petitions and things that they write down, that their intentions that they write down. It's really about, understanding your natal chart and making it custom for you. So when you say what's a good moon ritual for manifestation, is actually understanding your natal chart and then kind of working it around from there. Magic without astrology is like shooting with a blindfold.
Wow. Deep statement. Wow. Oh man. Well, this was a great show. The people definitely loved it in the chat room. I want to thank you, Aminah, once again for coming on the show and dropping it. You know what I'm saying? Leave your contact information. So if anybody want to get in touch with you about anything, they can reach you.
Yeah, it's how do I write in the chat? Are you gonna do it or what?
You don't. I'll write it for you.
All right.
You're not familiar with YouTube at all, huh?
Not really.
You gotta get it. Somebody asked earlier if you had a YouTube page. So you don't have a YouTube page, huh?
I do, but it's like one video on there. I need to get it going. Don't worry, I will.
You do.
I'm gonna get it going this year.
But
but yeah, wise.royalty is my Instagram. And everything you need to know, how to book or join my classes, and everything will be posted there. So
let me just write this real quick for you. Wise.royal. Yeah. All right, so that's sister's Instagram, wise.royalty. Her Instagram's popping. So that's how I found out about the sister from Instagram. So make sure y'all check out her Instagram, wise.royalty. Family, I want to thank you once again for tuning in. This is Brother Rich, Aminah L. Learned a lot about the moon today, y'all. Learned a lot about the moon.
Thank you for having me.
On a moon day. On a moon day. We learned about the moon day. On a moon day.
While the moon is in Leo, so the moon got her shine today.
The moon got her. This is divine. This is divine work right here, family. This is divine work right here. All right, thanks for coming on once again, Aminah. This is Brother Rich. We're gonna see you next time, family. Peace. All right.